Welcome to the Big Tech Gut Check here on Scrolling to Death. This is your weekly update for parents on all things social media and big tech. First up for the week of September 30th, 2024. I'm going to start with briefly recapping this major lawsuit that the state of New Mexico dropped against Snapchat. New Mexico has an incredible attorney general named Raul Torres who does a ton of work to protect children of New Mexico, but the allegations apply to all children in all states here and the world. But I would love to see more state attorney generals filing similar lawsuits. And here's why parents need to pay close attention to these lawsuits. It's because we're finding out what's really happening to our kids on social media platforms. Not what Snapchat is telling us, not what Meta is telling us, the real story. So in this lawsuit against Snapchat, it is alleged that Snapchat is unsafe and liable for harm to children. Internal messages have been found by Snapchat employees sounding the alarm about certain features to which executives ignored their concerns. In 2022, Snap employees internally discussed that there were 10,000 user reports of sextortion every month, to which they did not warn us about. And since that time, there have been millions of sextortion attempts and many suicide deaths because of sextortion. The lawsuit includes a test account as a 14-year-old girl who was immediately contacted by male predators, sent nude imagery, asked for nude imagery, and groomed. This lawsuit is alleging that Snapchat has created an avenue for predators to identify, groom, and target children. And that's what we're seeing in the stories and the data that we're getting access to now. So Snapchat released a statement on this lawsuit just this week. They said that, quote, "We designed Snapchat as a place to communicate with a close circle of friends with built-in safety guardrails and have made deliberate design choices to make it difficult for strangers to discover minors on our service." Blah, blah, blah. It's bullshit. There's so many adult predator strangers contacting children. So if you're a parent, please don't allow your child to use Snapchat. It is not only exposing them to predators, it's super addictive and unhealthy for them to be using. Find a better platform for them to communicate on. And if your child feels like they're going to be left out, I'm sorry, but the harms of their access are greater than the feeling of being left out, period. And parents, if you are using Snapchat, no judgment, but can you stop? We don't want to support a platform that is actively harming children, do we? Next up, this week, The New Yorker dropped an article asking a very poignant question. Has social media fueled a teen suicide crisis? Yes. The answer is yes. Suicide is now the second leading cause of death for kids aged 10 to 14. More kids are dying from suicide as preteens than from all the cancers combined. 9% of high school-age students have tried to take their life in the last year. That's like 3 students in every single classroom. And this steady and steep increase in suicidal behavior lines up directly with their increased use of social media. If you want a ton of research and backing on this, please read New York Times bestseller, The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt, but also listen to the stories of harm. In this article from The New Yorker, they've interviewed several parents, some of which I've interviewed on this podcast as well. I'm going to read you just 3 short excerpts from the article to take with you today. Lori began delving into Anna's social media accounts after Anna's death. Lori shares, "I thought I'd see funny cat videos. Instead, the feeds were full of material about suicide, self-harm, and eating disorders." Another parent named Chris said, quote, "You're not going to let your kid run around with a sharp knife. Then don't let your kid onto these sites until they're 18. I thought I was a good and responsible father. I checked around the house. I locked the doors every night, making everything nice and safe. I didn't understand that the lion was already inside the house." In 2017, an internal meta document was released where they described us, users, as stressed, defeated, overwhelmed, anxious, nervous, stupid, silly, useless, and failures. And we also found out that 6% of U.S. teens who are suicidal attribute it directly to Instagram. I'm linking to this full New Yorker article in the episode notes, and I want to thank the survivor parents who are featured. I know it is so difficult to tell these stories, but you are truly saving lives. Let's talk briefly about warning labels. So in June, our U.S. Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, officially stated, quote, "It is time to require a Surgeon General's warning label on social media platforms." He shared that social media is associated with significant mental health harms for adolescents. So to answer that call, a federal bill has been introduced by Senators Katie Britt of Alabama and John Fetterman of Pennsylvania. This is called the Stop the Scroll Act and would require there to be pop-up labels on social media warning of the potential risks. The user would then be pointed to a mental health resource. So do I think this would be helpful? Yes. A mom recently shared with me that after she lost her daughter to suicide after being inundated with suicide content on TikTok and Instagram, she said that if there was a warning label, she would have restricted her daughter's use more than she did. She thought that the content being served to her daughter was safe. But warning labels are only one small part of the overall solution. We also need regulation to force the platforms to be safer, like the Kids Online Safety Act. With cigarettes, for example, we didn't just slap a warning label on packs and still let kids buy them. We set an age restriction. We passed laws to stop big tobacco from advertising to children. We invested in unbiased studies to show how deadly the products were. All of that needs to be applied to the addictive products that social media companies are providing to our children. Okay, next up, the online gaming platform called Roblox has partnered with Google to create a game that teaches kids how to spot internet scams. The name of the game is Be Internet Awesome World. Okay. This brings kids to the magical world of Internauts, which is the home to a number of mini games that addresses various aspects of internet safety. Some of the games focus on phishing attempts and others emphasize practicing kindness online. The fact is that Roblox and Fortnite and Minecraft and all these games that are for children are teeming with predators who are looking for our kids. Bloomberg recently published an article titled Roblox's Pedophile Problem, where they exposed how Roblox is overall failing to protect kids on their platform. So is this new game going to stop all the sexual exploitation and cyberbullying from happening on Roblox? No, definitely not. There are so many other platform design and functionality and safety changes that they could make, which would help a lot more. The author of this article in Engadget said it best. Perhaps Roblox should get its own house in order before trying to teach kids about how to avoid scams online. Roblox, take responsibility for the issues on your platform before placing the responsibility on children to protect themselves. I have a really good interview about gaming with GameSafe founder David Everett available now. We go deep into how to game safely. I want to end with a really important resource that the American Academy of Pediatrics just released. They published a glossary of digital media platforms. It gives parents detailed info and recommendations for social media and gaming platforms. They break down the privacy settings, screen time management, feed customization options, and parental controls. I get a lot of questions from parents like, how do I make this platform as safe as possible for my children? And this is the resource for you. Also, if you're wondering if a platform is safe, and if you think that the parental controls will be acceptable, this is also a good resource. So I'm linking to that in the episode notes. And there are a ton more updates from this week that I didn't have time for in this update. Please go to my Instagram at scrolling2death with a number 2 for shorter videos on a bunch of other things that happened this week. But I want to thank you for being invested in your children's safety, educating yourself on these topics. I know that some of these updates are not fun to hear, but we can continue sticking our head in the sand and ignore it, or we can actually educate ourselves and begin to add precautions and begin to make safer decisions about devices and social media for our children. So thank you. I'll catch you next week.